Hi all, I am Divya Somakumar and in this video we are going to learn how to create constants and variables using TensorFlow. To begin with, we are going to import TensorFlow as TF. Since we are working with Google Collaboratory, we can directly write the import statement. But if you're working on local notebooks like Jupyter notebooks, you will have to first install TensorFlow onto your system using command prompt and then run the codes on Jupyter notebook. Now let's get started by first importing TensorFlow as TF. Import TensorFlow as TF. Let's run this. Now let's check for the version of TensorFlow. Print TF dot underscore underscore version underscore underscore. Now let's run this. So, our TensorFlow version 2.6.0 is present in our Google Collaboratory. Now, we have to create constants. How do we do that? We write C1 is equals to TF, that is TensorFlow, dot constant, and let's pass any number. Let's say 100. Let's run this. Now, let's take another example. Let's take a vector tf dot constant. Now we are going to pass in a vector. Let's say vector has 10 comma 12. So you all know that vectors have direction and magnitude. So you have two over here. Now let's run this. Now we have taken a scalar which is 100. We have taken a vector which has magnitude and direction. Now we are going to take something which is in the three-dimensional sphere, that is a matrices. So we'll take a matrix C3 is equals to TF dot constant. Let's pass a matrix through it, 15 comma 16, another 16 comma 17. Now let's see how C1 looks like. So print C1. So C1 is now a tensor object. It is a scalar, so it does not have any shape, and it is a data type of integer 32, which is nothing but integer. Now let's look at how C2 looks like. Print C2. C2 is again a tensor object of 10, 12 with a shape 2, and the type is int 32. Now let's see how our matrix looks like. Print C3. Let's run this. C3 is again a tensor object with shape 2, 2, 2 rows and 2 columns, and data type is int 32. Now, if you want to find out the numpy value of this C1, C2, C3, what we have to do is just write C1 dot numpy and brackets. So, the numpy value of C1 is 100, C2 dot numpy. The numpy value for C2 is 10, 12. C3 dot numpy. The numpy value of C3 is 15, 16 and 16, 17. This is the way we create constants using TensorFlow. Similarly, we can create variables using TensorFlow. How do we do that? First, let's assign t1 is equals to tf dot variable. Remember that v is capital if you want to create variable. Now we will first pass in a scalar, just the way we had passed in a constant. The same way we are going to pass in a scalar to create a TensorFlow object. Let's run this. Now we are going to create a variable for the vector. So t2 is equals to tf dot variable. Now we will pass in a vector 15 comma 16. Now we will create a TensorFlow variable for a matrix. T3 is equals to tf dot variable. We will pass in a matrix 15 comma 16 comma 16 comma 17. Now let's print T1, T2 and T3. Print T1. So T1 is a TensorFlow variable. Since it's a scalar, it does not have a shape and its D type is int32 and the numpy value is 16. So if you want to check for the numpy value, all you have to do is t1 dot numpy. So the numpy value of t1 is 16. Similarly, we can find what t2 looks like. Print t2. T2 is a variable. It has shape 2 comma and it is of integer data type and the numpy array is 15 comma 16. Now if you want to check for the numpy object of T2, all you have to do is T2 dot numpy. We get the array 15 comma 16. So this is the way the variable for a vector looks like. Now let's see how T3 looks like. Print T3. T3 is again a TensorFlow variable. It has a shape of 2 comma 2 and a d type of int32 and the numpy array looks like 15 16 16 17. Now let's check for the numpy object. T3 dot numpy. So it is an array 2 cross 2 array with data type int 32, which is nothing but integer 32. I hope everyone is clear with how to create constants and variables in TensorFlow. Thank you.